Welcome to Charlotte Conversations. I'm Pastor Barrett of the Elm Church. We do this every Sunday at 11 a.m. And we're so enthused. We come with a topic of interest that you've asked us to talk about, really to enrich our lives. We want you to live an empowered life. Here at the end, we focus on four areas. We focus on empowering your faith, your family, your fellowship, and your finances. Today we're talking about your health, which if you don't have your health, you don't really have any wealth. And we're joined today by Leslie Ware. She is a PA here, and they changed the name of that to, what is it now?
Physician associate.
Physician associate here in the great city of Charlotte. She's been my physician associate, which if you don't know what that is, it's like it's like a doctor.
Right.
They can see you for your monthly and your annual, and they can take good care of you as well. And so you go see a PA, it's like going to see a medical doctor as well. They have equivalent ways that they can serve you in the community. And so we're enthused to have Leslie Ware here. Leslie Ware, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I'm a physician assistant associate, and I'm also a health educator. I've been practicing for 24 years, and I work in the community doing health education and programs and things like that to impact people's lives for about 35 years.
Nice, for
Yeah.
35 years. So
Yeah.
It's amazing she could do that at the age of 40. Well, good job, good job, good job.
Thank you for the kind compliment.
Good job, good job. So today we want to talk about health today. We want to talk about health. And before we had a great conversation about something that the church doesn't talk about often. We talked about, we had a conversation about sex. Mm-hmm. We talked about how our interaction with one another is impacting our health as a community. And so we're going to continue the conversation about health. And there's some statistics out there, and I don't know if you want to share them, I'll get them started with it. About 42% of us, 42.5% of U.S. Americans are obese. And I was a public health professor, and I want to say that's upward towards 60 to 65% for black people are obese. And so it's a problem in our community. And get us started. Let's talk about how does obesity impact us as a community?
Well, goodness. So back in the 70s, there was some public health guidance that led to us all following a low-fat diet. But what that happened to do at the same time was cause us to have a high carbohydrate diet, particularly simple carbohydrates that are low in fiber and don't have the nutritional value. And if you're eating too many simple carbohydrates, then that can lead to inflammation in your body that subsequently leads to obesity. But here in Mecklenburg County, the rates of overweight and obesity are even higher, approaching about 60%. And that has a lot to do with our inactivity. Over time, we have become more sedentary, less active. We're in our cars all the time. We're sitting at our desks all the time. The pandemic certainly didn't help in keeping us all in place and with less movement than we should have. And here in the South, there's such a thing as the good old soul food diet.
Yes.
Where all the staples are starches, those simple carbohydrates that lead to excess calories and pounds and things that go on in our bodies that we don't really recognize.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of times we just think about the calories.
That good old fried chicken.
Yeah. I'm a fan of fried chicken, and I know that there are ways that you can modify your preparation of the chicken,
Yes.
but it's the sides that get you even more so than the chicken, I would dare say. So when you eat simple carbohydrates, that's anything that's like starchy, made of white flour, potatoes, rice, pasta, bread, crackers, chips, cookies, pies, things like that. Or if you drink sugared drinks, those all kind of break down into a sugar. That leads your body to make insulin and put insulin out so that it can lower the blood sugar, but insulin is a hormone that also causes your body to store fat. And it also makes you tired, and it makes you hungry, usually for more simple carbohydrates or just kind of junk foods. And then also bad fats are pro-inflammatory too. So I think that the messaging that I grew up with in health education was about watching the 4 food groups and making sure that you have a low-fat diet. And on the food pyramid that was invented a long time ago, there was actually carbohydrates at the base of the pyramid and suggestion that you eat 9 to 11 servings of carbohydrate a day.
Oh, wow.
So the rates of obesity and diabetes paralleled that recommendation that started back in the 70s.
It set us up for failure.
Definitely set us up for failure, and I think somewhat by design.
Oh, you know, we are saying, they do say that we're in a war here in America with our food.
Yes.
Food war.
Mm-hmm.
So, another question for you is, tell us about what's inflammatory. I mean, what's inflammation? We hear that all the time, but no one really explains it to us.
Right. So when we have lots of cells, I think people get kind of disconnected from how they're feeling, how they're living their life, and what's happening in their microbiome, in their chemistry in the body. And so we are made of cells. There's trillions of cells that make up tissues, that similar tissues make up organs, and those organs work together in harmony, or they'll kind of fall apart in harmony as well. But we have even more bacteria in our intestine and in different parts of our body that really drive our immune health. And so if you eat a diet of processed food, and people always ask, well, what is processed food? It's really anything that's in the center aisles of the grocery store.
Yes.
And those foods are processed with either bad fats or bad carbohydrates or bad forms of sodium that lead to inflammation in the body, because those bacteria are counting on the whole foods that God put here on earth for us to consume. So if you eat something, say, if it's an apple, it should look like an apple. It shouldn't be artificially colored green and
Yes.
artificially flavored apple, because the bacteria say, well, what is this? I don't know what to do with this. And so it looks like a foreign invader, and the bacteria will turn on inflammatory processes that are a part of the immune system to fight that foreign substance that you're consuming.
That sounds like it's a foreign substance. That does sound rare in a food war.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
does.
Because a lot of stuff we consume isn't food at all.
Right.
If you look on the food labels, on the back of the label, there will be, of course, the nutritional facts, but there's the ingredients on the very bottom that if there's a whole host of ingredients, especially ones that you don't know the name of,
Yes.
those things are not designed for our bodies to be able to process. So that's why we become sicker over time, is because all of our food is, manufactured, it's processed, it's preserved. Our food, in terms of like animal products and produce, they're mass produced, and so there's lots of herbicides and pesticides in the fruits and vegetables that we consume, and then our animals are mass produced as well. They're not farm raised like they used to be, because our population has demanded that we have fast food, and so there has to be a lot of food manufactured so we can show up and have our wings on wing night, on game night, So those antibiotics are actually offensive to our probiotics and damaging to our probiotic bacteria that are there to help us.
Now, you mentioned probiotics. So what's some of the best ways to obtain or digest or intake probiotics? So probiotics can be purchased or consumed in the form of fermented foods, like yogurt, if you must eat bread, sourdough bread, kimchi, sauerkraut. So anything that is fermented is helpful to the microbiome. But we create our own microbiota in our body. Okay. And there are also supplements that you can take. I recommend, if you do a probiotic supplement, that you consider one that has a variety of strains, because there's hundreds of different strains of microbes in our intestine. We have them in our nose. We have them in on our skin, and they're there to protect us. In our gut, they're there to help us to digest our food and absorb our nutrients and eliminate properly. And they can be found in supplemental form, but what I do recommend is that you refrigerate them. Most of them have to be refrigerated because they are live organisms,
And if you have them sitting there on the shelf, and if you're especially inconsistently taking them, then they don't serve you the best. And they thrive off of prebiotic fiber. So important for you to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, a wide variety of green leafy vegetables because of those plant chemicals and because of the fiber that is there to help those microbes thrive.
I have a question for you. Well, this is all very interesting. One thing you did say, and I want to stick with this for I ask my question, is when you go to the grocery store, you really should start from one side and just stay on the outside of the grocery store, right? Correct?
Yes, that's where most of the Whole Foods are.
Right. Start in produce, work your way around.
Right.
Stay on the outside. And the inside is the stuff that's been repackaged, redeveloped, and reimagined.
It's been processed with something that's
It's
not
been
so good
processed.
for you, for sure.
Yes. So I have an allergy to perfume. Why?
Probably
I'm struggling with
because
it
you
right
have
now.
it may be because you're in sort of an autoimmune state. So those bacteria, as I mentioned, when they're not happy, they'll turn your immune system on, partly in the form of inflammatory sort of mediators in your body. And your body will develop really autoimmune conditions, not just allergies. So anything that ends in itis is inflammation.
Right.
And so if you have allergies, that is allergic rhinitis. So you're always stuffy and inflamed in your sinuses, in your nose, in your eyes, in your throat.
Yes.
There's also inflammatory dermatitis. So eczema is, and forms of inflammatory skin conditions like psoriasis are also autoimmune and a reflection of the things that we are consuming and our body's response to that.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of times people think that they're allergic to food. They don't have necessarily food allergies. It's more food intolerances that happen because over time, if you're consuming things that are processed and artificial and you have, eat meats that are given antibiotics and steroids and things like that, those bacteria begin to die off and create their own toxins in your body. And then they also drive your metabolism. And so when they're not happy, they can't perform optimally, and you develop this chronic systemic inflammatory state that manifests in a lot of ways. Even dementia, different forms of dementia, autism, ADHD, all of those are neuroinflammatory conditions that can occur as a result of having this inflammatory sort of state in your body.
So how can we prevent dementia? Is there a way to slow it down or?
Yeah, you can slow it down. Well, dementia happens for a variety of reasons, but let's just, for the sake of this conversation, say that it is a neuroinflammatory process. We should all be following a more whole food sort of diet.
Yes.
And consuming more water and really just being kind and respectful to ourselves and provide proper nutrients. I know a lot of adults that don't eat vegetables, for instance.
Right.
I don't know how that happens, that you can go through life and just really don't like vegetables or for whatever reason haven't introduced your palate to vegetables. But there's so many nutrients in those vegetables that our cells rely on, that those microbiome rely on to reduce the inflammation that's in your body. And then eating good fats versus bad fats. So the difference is pretty much if you eat fast foods,
yes.
Chances are those are going to be made with bad fats. So canola oil, any kind of seed oil, peanut oils, things like that.
Bad for you?
Especially if it's heated. Yeah. So the best oils are coconut and olive oil. People who are that come here from Africa will use a lot more palm oil.
Yes.
And though it is high in cholesterol per se,
yes.
it has it's very rich in omega-3 fatty acids and really good fats that help to reduce inflammation.
Yes.
If you're a sugar person, that is the most pro-inflammatory thing you can consume is sugar. But if you like things that are sweetened, you might consider monk fruit, for instance, because monk fruit reduces inflammation. and it's antioxidant, and it's actually a healthy sweetener if you must have something sweetened.
Okay, what about this stevia?
Stevia is the second best, yes.
Second best? Okay, I use stevia. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
There's a fast food place that has the most amazing hamburgers. I eat one a year. But they champion the fact they use peanut oil on their fries. And I wonder.
I know exactly where you eat. I know where you get.
Yes.
We've been fooled a lot.
I hate that.
And those fries are really
They're
good.
amazing. They brag about the peanut oil.
Yeah.
All right.
And there is such a thing as moderation, and I do believe in that. We can't all be perfect. Consistency is most people's greatest challenge, and
Right.
It's a matter of knowing what you're consuming and being conscientious about your choices
Peanut
to start.
oil. They brag about it.
Yeah, and really when you heat any oil up, even if it's olive oil, when you heat it up, you actually kind of denature the proteins in the oil, and you rob it of some of its benefits.
Right.
But again, it's all along a continuum of best choice to worst choice.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a juicer, but my juice only lasts 4 days. They say only let it last about 3 to 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
But if I buy some juice from the store, it lasts a lot longer.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It may be what they preserve it with.
But they say it's 100% juice.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know why that
I
is.
was wondering about that because my juice does not last that long at all. In fact, my watermelon juice, it went sour on me. Well, I never think that could be possible, but it went sour on me in a short amount of time. So, a question for you: the leading cause of death in America, like last year, were
In most years before, since I was studying health education, so that was 35 years ago.
well, COVID wasn't there. COVID's number 3 now.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, right. So they are. What's the first one?
Cardiovascular disease.
Heart disease. Second one is cancer,
Yes.
and the third one is COVID.
COVID now. Mm-hmm.
Now, I was, having these allergies, and somebody walked up, they put their shirt above their nose, like, oh my God, he's gonna give me COVID.
We're in strange times.
Right. But the new strand does not. You can have the sniffles. It isn't. The symptoms aren't coughing. What are the symptoms of the new COVID?
There is some cough to it. It's more not as deeply embedded in your lungs now. It's more in your nasal passages, your nasopharynx. Fever and chills. Some people are still having loss of sense of smell. But I'm glad you mentioned COVID because I also was reviewing the leading causes of death again, preparing for this. And the COVID, I think, is really interesting because prior to the pandemic, I was telling people about this systemic inflammation and suggesting, natural herbs and roots like turmeric and ginger and things like that can help to reduce inflammation. And then the pandemic came, COVID came along, and I was looking at the leading risk factors for doing the worst with COVID, and people like that had high blood pressure and heart disease and obesity, diabetes, all of those folks shared in common this systemic inflammation that was already present. And so this coronavirus is more of an inflammagen than, it is infectious because it can spread from person to person, and it is viral, but the proteins that were sort of manufactured in this virus cause this inflammation that is what leads people to die of clotting disorders, pulmonary embolism, heart attack, stroke, things like that.
Which goes back to the fact that we should eat more vegetables,
Yes.
greater amounts of fiber, and more antibiotics, but more what
Probiotics.
else?
Probiotics, yeah.
There should be more of those things.
Drink more water. Get more rest. Manage your stress, because those also, when you have a high level of mismanaged stress in your life, that can also cause inflammation in your body.
Now, I try to drink a gallon of water a day, and it is actually hard to drink a gallon of water a day if you've never tried it. But it's worth the effort, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
You can add some lemon or lime to your water. and that actually helps to detoxify your body.
Oh, okay. That acts as alkaline as well, correct?
Yeah.
So I drink alkaline water from dkln.com.co.
Do you know another way to alkalinize your body?
What's that?
To exercise.
They don't sell that.
It's cheap. It's free, actually. It's actually free to alkalinize your body. Then you can keep your alkaline water budget in your pocket.
If you exercise, creates alkaline.
Yeah, because you're blowing off acid, right?
Wow.
When you're blowing off the acid.
There's a whole industry right now
yes.
of alkaline water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my friend started one out of D.C. and it's going national, but they're big on alkaline water. I bought a bottle that has a filter for $40, and it makes all the alkaline water I need.
Yeah.
But okay, good to know. Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
So now, is there any way to prevent heart disease other than what we've already said? If it's the number one killer, how do we prevent it?
You prevent it by eating whole, exercising, getting proper rest, managing your stress, connecting with people that you love and that can support you through your life journey.
Mm-hmm.
And having a diet that is more rich in fruits and vegetables and whole foods. And if you like beef, grass-fed beef would be better. If you like seafood, wild caught is better than farm raised.
Yes,
and though the whole poultry industry it's a little tricky because if you have cage-free eggs.
Yes.
Or free-range chicken, it is supposed to have less antibiotics and steroids and hormones and all those chemicals exposed to it.
Right.
But during the pandemic, I was helping people try and kind of navigate through their health issues, and I met on a telehealth visit some farmers that told me that when consumers demand their cows not be exposed to antibiotics, then they have to kill the cow when it gets sick because they can't give it antibiotics, and that's very expensive. So sometimes when we see the prices of our beef going up, it's because of that reason. And then the other thing she shared with me is that if all they have to do is have a chicken pen with a door open so that the chickens are free, they have free liberty to go in and out of the chicken coop, and that's considered a cage-free chicken. That can be considered cage-free.
Okay.
So we woke up in America.
Yes.
And these things happen that the messaging isn't altogether clear or accurate.
Here in North Carolina, you can go outside the city, and they have wild cage-free eggs. They'll sell little sign, and I bought a few just to see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even eat eggs anymore, really, but just to see the difference. And it is remarkably different.
Farmed eggs.
Fresh eggs are far different than the ones you get in the store.
I agree.
But they cost a lot more in the store than if you go out to the country and get your eggs.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. At one point, I was taking care of this little lady. She was about 87 years old. She was raised on a farm, African-American lady. And she was just talking about how the food has changed, and the food that's in the store, the milk, the eggs, the bread, like nothing tastes the same. It doesn't taste like food at all. And she says, I feel for you young people.
That's what she said.
Yeah, I feel for you young people because it's just not the way it used to be.
No, and maybe it's the pasteurized, how it does. I mean, what they feed them. Really, it's moving towards the fact that we possibly need to be all vegans.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, not all jokes aside, because when they start putting out chicken out of a lab, that's the last straw.
It's scary.
That's frightening. So, and then some states don't have to tell you that the chicken is made in the lab. So, anyway, that's another discussion. So take us out. We have a couple minutes left. What are some of the things dealing like stress? So, stress is a major factor in how we live our lives. Stress is one of the major factors of why black men live shorter lives than most other people as well. It's because of stress. What is stress and how do we deal with stress?
Right. Stress is an essential part of our lives, to be honest. And I read this book one time called The Upside of Stress.
Yes.
Because I was just really wanting to get a different perspective, because I know it's something that we can't escape. And so it's not so much that you have stress in your life, but it is the meaning that you assign to that stress. Because some stress is good for us. It's what got you here. It got you through the flat tire that you had,
Yes.
and it got you here relatively on time. And
Was that a good part of stress, though?
the stress that you gave me yesterday helped me to be here in this seat today. And so it's not so much the stress, because whenever you're faced with a stressful situation, you tell your brain, and your brain perceives what you are telling it that is stressful to you. And it could be just micro stresses, not like something really big.
Right.
And that causes your brain to send a whole cascade of biochemistry that will change in your body.
Uh-huh.
And so it's better to say, okay, this stress is good for me, and harness that stress so that you can be more productive and more strategic and be a better planner, a better taskmaster, become more connected with your family, than to say, oh God, I have this stressful life and it's going to kill me. Because there's been studies that demonstrate that if that is the way you think about stress, and if you couple that with poor coping strategies, then you will in fact have an earlier death or more stress-related diseases at an earlier time in your life. And then there's another theory called the weathering effect.
Yes.
You mentioned African American men,
Yes.
who die younger because of stress. It's true also for African American women, and it doesn't have to do necessarily even with your health choices. It's just the sheer waking up in America as a person of color and the stresses that brings to your life. And we'd have a whole nother segment discussing what those stressors are,
Right.
the injustices and the disparities and things like that. But you have stress, you have good stress hormones in your body, and you have bad stress hormones in your body. And the ratio, if it's more bad to good, and you believe that you're going to die because of this stress, then in fact that might be the case.
That might be the case.
Yeah.
Well, 15 years ago, when I was first getting in the classroom to teach, the average age of a black man in America was 64, but retirement was 65. Up until that time, throughout the course of history, black men have been paying into Social Security and not living long enough to receive it. Say it again. Since black men have been working in America, they have been paying into Social Security, but were dying before they were of age to receive it. So now they want to raise the age of retirement to 70. Black men generally live to be about 74 right now, I believe, 74, 75. So even in the policies that America pushes, we have to be cognizant of how we live and how it impacts us as a whole, because food is part of the war against, us.
Right.
Americans.
Yeah.
Do you know Pop-Tarts aren't even allowed in some European countries? So we have food that we eat here that other countries, even some that aren't even developed countries, won't even allow.
Ban, yes.
They're banned. But we don't pay attention to that here because we trust that our government or the people who look out for us are looking out for us.
Yeah. And I like the whole notion of food as medicine.
Yes.
Because at the same time we are ignoring our bodies and being duped about our food, we are relying on medicines to get us out of bed, to get us back into bed, to get us through our day, to manage our blood pressure, to manage our cholesterol, to manage our joint pain. And all these things can actually be healed and helped with a better choice of food.
With food.
And a better supply of whole, real foods.
All right. Well, that's the last word. We are at our time. We want to thank you, Leslie Ware, for joining us here today at Charlotte Conversations. We really care about your health, and so we had this discussion about health today. We talked about a wide variety of things. What we want to close with, though, is it's all about the food. It's all about what you eat.
Yes.
Amen.
And drink.
And drink.
Or
Well,
not.
a lot of water.
Or not.
Or not. Or not. Or not. Hey, man, take me off the screen real quick. Camera off real quick. I want to do a close, but I want to. So I have this allergic reaction to perfume, and one of the wonderful people today.
Oh, I have on a good little shot of it too.
Well, oh my God, they got in the vehicle today, and they lit me up. Lord have mercy. And so now I'm going to do a close in a second. So the reason why I have this allergic reaction is because what? What do I need to do?
You need to detox your body, your liver, and your gut.
But I do it
kind of
every
reset
day.
it. Reset it. And then get on some probiotics, a really good probiotic, and follow an anti-inflammatory lifestyle.
I do apple cider vinegar. I didn't do anything this morning, though. I do a smoothie every day. How do you detox your liver?
You can. There's this really inexpensive way. You just
Record this,
Google. Google.
Hold on a second. Record us right now, Brent. Could you please? Oh, okay. Oh, how do you detox your liver?
Well, an inexpensive way is to Google detox lemonade, and that basically is a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice, fresh squeezed organic lemon juice, raw apple cider vinegar, a little shot of cayenne pepper.
Yes.
And you can sweeten it with monk fruit or stevia, and then add a little water. So you can add as much or little water, but that helps to detoxify.
And how much of that? And how long should we do?
You can do it for. It really just depends. Like you can do it a couple times a week if you're going to do it for the long haul. You can make it a part of your lifestyle if you just want to have a little shot in the morning as a little elixir to get your liver detoxed. There's not any too much that you can do of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I always get water with my lemon with my water rather.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. Any other questions before we start this movie?
You mentioned the oil, the better oil. You said canola oil was bad. I didn't know that. What do you recommend if you just have to have your fried chicken?
Coconut.
Hold on. So instead of canola oil, what other oil should we use? Say you want to make our fried chicken or fried fish or fried okra.
Right. So if you deep fat fry, that's the worst, right? So you want to, if you must fry, a shallow pan would be better, and then coconut oil or olive oil.
Okay.
Olive oil, you can't heat it up as high as coconut oil, but you can fry in coconut oil.
What about, I think the hot oil is avocado oil?
Avocado oil is also very good.
That's very good. You can raise that temperature on that one.
Yeah, you can raise the temp on it.
Very
Yes.
good. Good answer. Good answer. Any other questions?
I must say that raising the temperature on the oil isn't the best, but we can't be perfect. So I'm just making the recommendation of
I'm
what's the
with some
best oil.
fried mushrooms and fake like it's fried chicken.
I really should be telling you to bake, broil, steam, grill, do anything but fry.
We should.
But yeah, I meet people where they are, including myself.
Yeah,
We can't be too perfect.
You can take some oyster mushrooms and batter them and then fry them, and you'll think you're eating fried chicken.
Ah,
Yeah.
lion's mane too. I've heard this.
Oh
that
yeah,
way.
that's good too. That's
Yeah.
good too. Well, we want to thank you for joining us here at Charlotte Conversations. We do this every Sunday at 11 a.m. We come with a topic that you want to hear from. We want to thank you again for joining us here. Green means is on me or red?
Man, can you just talk?
Okay, thank you. We want to thank you. We want to thank you for joining us here at Charlotte Conversations. I'm Pastor Barrett. We do this every Sunday at 11 a.m. Go check us out on our website, theelm.church, or on our social media. Find us there, meet us there, greet us there, and live empowered with us right there. We want to thank Pastor Leslie. We want to thank Leslie Ware for joining us today. I just made you a member of the club.
Oh my goodness, I don't know that I'm ready for that.
And all the pressures that come along with that. Amen. For joining us here today. She'll be back again. We'll have another discussion on health down the road. She had 3 topics she wants to share. We've done 2. We have 1 more. Really excited about it. You always bring good energy, good information, and we feel much better having a conversation with you. All right?
Happy to do so.
Always remember this. We love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. God bless.